Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm taking you to the Master League Premier Cup, which has made its glorious return to Go Battle League once again. The Master League Premier Cup is a Master League format where legendaries, mythicals, and ultra beasts have been banned. And today I'll be showcasing a powerful Hydreigon team that I had an 80% win rate with on day 1 of the cup. Hydreigon is very strong because it breaks up the strong meta core that is Metagross plus Gyarados. It walls off the energy from Gyarados, and it beats Metagross comfortably in all even shielding scenarios. To round out the team, I have best buddy Snorlax and my own Metagross in the back. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1 we're off to a strong start, leading Hydreigon into Magnezone. Now this is a great matchup for Hydreigon, as Magnezone is forced to go for Mirror Shot, which doesn't do a lot of damage, or a resisted Wild Charge. They Mirror Shot and Safe Switch into Gyarados, and I get to bank a bunch of energy and send in Snorlax. Snorlax is specifically best buddied because a 15 attack Snorlax with best buddy boost equipped does 1 extra damage per lick to Gyarados. But you may notice in this matchup, my licks aren't hitting very hard. And that's because my opponent can undo that breakpoint by having their own Gyarados best buddied. So in this scenario, as they fish for crunch debuff after crunch debuff and do not get it, I'm not getting that extra lick damage because they are at level 51. Body Slam will land onto the Gyarados. Gyarados fires off more energy, but it's an Aqua Tail, and that means that I can survive. Opponent tries to snipe down with the Magnezone, but back in comes Hydreigon. So far, my opponent has not shown that they have a strong answer to Hydreigon. Hydreigon gets to spam out Brutal Swing after Brutal Swing. This will not knock out, but it will put them into perfect farm down range. Here, to me, this is a very easy shield. If my opponent has a Florges in the back, then I'm perfectly fine being down a shield because Metagross will still win that endgame. But if it's not Florges, then I probably have some pretty nice play with my Hydreigon. They bring back in Gyarados, but their energy is walled. They throw the Aqua Tail. I tank that no problem. In the back is Metagross, and they were just triple weak to Hydreigon. Brutal Swing after Brutal Swing, Hydreigon putting on an absolute clinic. 1 shield goes down, 2 shields go down, and now with a shield advantage, I switch into the Metagross mirror. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We move to the second match, picking up a bit of a tough lead, Hydreigon into Rhyperior. Now, I do have the tech to hit Rhyperior for big super effective damage with Flash Cannon, but Flash Cannon is so expensive that I get outpaced and I'm forced to put up a shield. My opponent's running Breaking Swipe of all things, which is a pretty massive surprise, but the good news is since I'm debuffed, they're very unlikely to shield, and Flash Cannon lands through 2 shields. I get a massive farm down with Hydreigon, my opponent sends in Gyarados, and if you're bringing a Gyarados into a loaded Hydreigon, then you're very clearly just double weak to Hydreigon in the back. So I bank double Brutal Swing, and I switch out of the matchup and safe switch into Snorlax. My opponent has the best buddy badge on Gyarados, but it's not equipped, and that's why the licks from Snorlax are doing way more damage here. Aqua Tail is going to land, that's not a problem whatsoever. I farm up a ton of energy with Snorlax, and finally start to fire off these Body Slams. The Body Slam does get shielded, my opponent cannot take the knockout here, and I'm actually going to look to try and get aggressive and pivot back into Hydreigon. So I farm up some energy, pivot into Hydreigon, try to click the Brutal Swing, but unfortunately I clicked it 1 turn too late. My opponent gets the Aqua Tail, that's going to get Hydreigon very low, and unfortunately now I can probably get farmed down. Brutal Swing lands, I try for the farm down, but I actually get farmed down, and my opponent reveals their final Pokemon in the back is going to be their own Metagross. Since I still have Snorlax, I'm in a pretty nice spot here. I can just go straight Meteor Mash. Because my opponent knows it's a Meteor Mash, they're always going to no shield, but after a Meteor Mash lands, I just do way too much damage with Shadow Claw. They full send the Earthquake, hoping for the Hail Mary, but unfortunately, it's just not going to work out. Meteor Mash gets the shield. I still have a Charge Attack loaded on Snorlax as well. They do make the Meteor Mash, but unfortunately, Meteor Mash will not be enough to KO. Meteor Mash lands, in comes Snorlax. Snorlax gets that farm down and exits with the back-to-back Body Slams loaded. Back in comes Gyarados, Body Slam lands. Turns out we don't even need the second move, and we're able to take the win. Hopping into the next match, picking up a terrible lead, Hydreigon into Florges. This is the meta matchup that Hydreigon does not want to see. But I have 2 decent answers to Florges in the back, so I safe switch into Metagross. My opponent stays in with Florges, firing off the Chilling Water, permanently debuffing me until I switch out, and then they send in Gyarados. In my eyes, my opponent has already made a misplay. They had a decent answer to Metagross with the Gyarados, but they stayed into debuff, and that is a mistake that I can punish. I'm going to start by shielding up on the Metagross, and I'm going to look to farm up a massive amount of energy. If I'm going to win this game, it's going to be by preserving energy and health on that Metagross to KO the Florges, and then hopefully Hydreigon will be able to do well. Gyarados fires off the crunch, just looking to burn the switch timer, and they reveal their final Pokemon in the back is their own Metagross. I farm up to 100 energy and I will fire off Superpower. I know that even with the debuff to my defense, I should still survive the Meteor Mash. Meteor Mash does under half normally, so even with my defense at -1, I should be able to hang on and get aggressive and pivot into Hydreigon. I've saved multiple charge stacks on both of my back two Pokemon. I will try and take a knockout here onto the Metagross before my opponent's Switch Clock comes up. Unfortunately for me, they're going to get a big farm down with Florges, but the good news is I have so much energy stored in the back. Now, unfortunately, I cannot make it to the Flash Cannon, but I did get very close. How well does my opponent trust their counting? Not well enough. They put up the shield, and back in comes Metagross. I almost had enough for the Flash Cannon. They did not want to risk it, and now they're forced to burn their final shield on this Meteor Mash. I'm now going to be debuffed, but I know I have the Meteor Mash loaded, so I will fire off this charge stack. Meteor Mash is an incredibly efficient charge stack, but with the debuff, Florges survives on very low HP to fire off the Chilling Water. I put up the shield, they should look to switch, in comes Gyarados, and I send back in the Snorlax. Snorlax is very low, but I have so much energy. Body Slam is going to land. We make it to Body Slam number 2, the best buddy boost coming in clutch as we barely survive. KO the Gyarados. Florges farms me down, but they do not have a charge stack, and one Shadow Claw from Metagross means we're taking the win. We've actually got a perfect mirror lead in the next match, Hydreigon versus Hydreigon. This was a pretty common lead that I saw. People, day one, were pretty quickly realizing how powerful this Pokemon can be. I go for the Flash Cannon, and look at that catch from my opponent. Oh my goodness. They catch the Flash Cannon onto Shadow Magnezone, where it's going to be double resisted. Oh my, I'm in absolute shambles after that catch. That was a beautiful play from my opponent. I fire off the Brutal Swing, my opponent accidentally overfarms too much, and suddenly, I'm able to force both shields from my opponent. They have a ton of energy. I'm going to go for a Mirror Shot catch onto Snorlax, because Mirror Shot, not really going to do a lot of damage. But my opponent read me like a book. They fire off the Blind Wild Charge. I end up catching big damage onto the Snorlax, and I'm forced to put up the shield. Back in comes Hydreigon. They stored so much energy on Hydreigon before switching out. Brutal Swing lands. It looks like with the Dragon Breath, I cannot survive the next Brutal Swing. Actually, I may be able to. It's going to be very, very close. I know shield, Brutal Swing lands. I can't make the Superpower, and I'm forced to settle for the Body Slam. Body Slam will still get my opponent low, and now I can switch in my own Hydreigon. My opponent unable to make the farm down, as I will make the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing will take the knockout, and my opponent is highly likely just to take the farm on their Magnezone. Back in comes the Magnezone. Magnezone really appreciating that extra Volt Switch, as now I bring in Metagross. But I'm going to have a Metagross that's up 5 Shadow Claws, and it's basically full HP in the zeros. That's very hard to beat. My opponent reveals their final Pokemon is their own Metagross, and this game is over. I can Shadow Claw them into a range where Earthquake will be lethal, so I fire off the Earthquake, down goes Metagross, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Hydreigon into Metagross. This is one of the leads that we're hoping to see. My opponent is staying in this matchup, and this matchup is so comfortable for Hydreigon. I fire off the Brutal Swing. They make a devastating catch onto their own Hydreigon. That is definitely not what I was hoping to see, but I'm going to look to rebank energy because one good catch deserves another, and we're catching onto Snorlax. This Hydreigon is on Fly. Fly is a move that I did consider. It does help with the mirror, but unfortunately, I think a non-same type attack bonus Fly in the Master League Premier Cup just doesn't do a lot of neutral damage. So I prefer the ability to inflict big damage onto the fairies, or as we saw earlier, onto Rhyperior. Superpower is going to connect, down goes Hydreigon, and back in comes Metagross. Metagross, very nice counting. They're going to fire off the Meteor Mash right as I make it to the Superpower and take the KO. But I have energy for days on this Hydreigon, and if they're not careful, Hydreigon can run away with this game. Brutal Swing does get shielded. I'm going to try for a catch onto my own Metagross, and I do not get it. Great patience from my opponent, and now I'm on the defensive. I shield, but I get the shield call right, as my opponent will go for the Earthquake. I'm just going to go for a double shield and look to farm up to the back-to-back Meteor Mashes. I know I have energy stored on Hydreigon, and I'm still going to have a very healthy Metagross that has a Meteor Mash loaded. That's a very difficult combination to beat. They know shield in the back is Gyarados, and this is a one game. Because Gyarados, they can't really damage Hydreigon, so I'm in a really nice spot. Meteor Mash is going to land, in comes Hydreigon, and they will fire off energy. But I realize, wait, if they have Outrage, and they do, I'm going to lose all my energy. An absolute disaster if I just throw the Brutal Swing before they fire off that charge stack. Even if they had Outrage, I would have been fine. But my opponent had the Spicy moveset, and now if they're Outrage Crunch, I lose the game. I hold my breath, It's Aqua Tail, and they do not make a second Aqua Tail. So even despite a catastrophic endgame blunder, the team is just too good, and we continue to get wins. Hydreigon into Gholdengo, an amazing lead in the next match. My opponent safe switches, oh no, into a Waterfall Gyarados, and they are just completely core broken by the Hydreigon. Hydreigon will fire off Brutal Swing lands, nice damage onto the Gyarados, and then I'm just gonna save the Hydreigon because it very clearly has value into their team and send in the Snorlax. Snorlax is best used just to be the damage sponge, absorbing charge attack after charge attack, and just simply not caring at all. Switch timer should be up for my opponent, and there it is. They reveal their final Pokemon in the back is their own Hydreigon. So they were very weak to my own Hydreigon. I fire off the superpower, that connects for big damage, and I'm able to make superpower number 2 as well. The energy on Snorlax so valuable into their team. I switch back into my Hydreigon, and I have enough energy for a Fly. Fly would do most of their HP, so they are forced to put up a shield. Now, I'm not running Fly, but obviously I haven't revealed that yet, so my opponent doesn't know that. It turns out they are running Fly. I'm able to get the Brutal Swing. I don't think this will knock out, but it's going to remove a lot of their HP. They survive on very low HP, and I can't quite snipe them down. They make it to a second Fly. That's going to get me very low, but I will get the farm down. My opponent sends back in Gholdengo, and I pivot into the Metagross. As long as I see the Astonished start, then I should be good to fire off the Earthquake. My opponent can win by waiting the turn and then going for the catch. So I farm. There, I probably should have thrown 1 in the move, but I just kept farming, and thankfully they do not get the catch, so we're going to take the win. I could have just thrown 1 in the move there, but I was kind of watching for the catch, psyched myself out a little bit, but luckily, they do not get the catch, and we're able to secure the win. Hydreigon into Kingambit in the next match. Now this is a bit of a core breaker for this team. I'm going to look to immediately safe switch into Snorlax, as Snorlax does have a good matchup into Kingambit. Snorlax can threaten double super effective damage with superpower, so I go for the Body Slam bait, and the bait is successful. But they're not the only one with super effective damage, because Kingambit learns Focus Blast. I respect it just to get baited, and my opponent is going to send out Metagross. So far, they are ABA Steel. Metagross will fire off the Meteor Mash instantly, but I'm going to look to bank up double superpower, because my best way of getting rid of that Kingambit is by banking the back-to-back moves on the Snorlax. Now I can pivot back into Hydreigon. Hydreigon takes pretty substantial damage from the Metagross, but I get to fire off the Brutal Swing and put them deep into the red. Brutal Swing lands, Metagross holds on, back in comes Kingambit, and I'm just going to look to farm up a ton of energy. Kingambit fires off the Foul Play will be knocking me out, but I have back-to-back charge attacks on Snorlax. The moment of truth, do I need to shield? I don't think so. Foul Play lands, Snorlax survives, and now I get the back-to-back superpowers. Superpower number 1 does get shielded, but there's more where that came from. Superpower number 2, this is now single stage debuffed. It gets them very, very low, and in comes Metagross. Metagross is going to look for a full farm down. My opponent should have a Meteor Mash on their Metagross, but they can't make the Earthquake. They switch in the Metagross, they try for the Earthquake, they do not get there. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We've got a tough opponent in the next match in Lyle Jeffs, and it's a perfect mirror, Hydreigon versus Hydreigon. Now, if I had Fly, that would probably be pretty nice for this mirror, but unfortunately, I do not. My opponent farms up to the Fly. I decide to disrespect it. I no shield, and unfortunately, they actually have it. I farm up a ton of energy, firing off the Brutal Swing. I could throw the Flash Cannon, but if Flash Cannon ever got shielded, I feel like that would be a really tough spot for me to be in. I go for a pretty blatant Brutal Swing here, not even building up, because I wanted to land some damage. I only have Ghost Fast moves in the back, so I don't have a great way of dealing with this Pokemon if it has a lot of HP. So I get them low, I'm going to look for a farm down with Snorlax, and my opponent pivots out and sends in Shadow Feraligatr. Shadow Feraligatr, going to fire off Hydro Cannon. I am incredibly thankful that this Feraligatr is not aligned onto my Metagross, as that would definitely be a tough matchup. I'm just going to spam out Body Slam after Body Slam, trying to get this Feraligatr low. Feraligatr now going to get hit with a second Body Slam. However, I don't think this will be quite enough to take the KO. Body Slam lands, Feraligatr able to hang on, and I'm more than happy just to trust Metagross up a shield. Metagross up a shield is an incredibly powerful pick, but not when they have a Shadow Claw Golisopod. Oh my goodness, the spice. And I am just core broken to smithereens. I can't really do anything against Shadow Claw Golisopod. I think it's a very smart pick from Lyle. Shadow Claw Golisopod is just so strong into Metagross. Metagross, I'm up a shield and I still can't really do anything because I get significantly outpaced and I'm just getting shredded by these Shadow Claws. I fire off the Meteor Mash. He's going to get to force not one, but both of my shields. My only win con is that somehow I can get a full farm down and exit with back-to-back Meteor Mashes. If that's the case, I think I might be able to win this game. So I am going to try for it, trying for the farm down. I get the farm down on 1 HP, but I just don't have the back-to-back. And that means that if I don't throw the Meteor Mash, I get farmed down, but Hydreigon has the Brutal Swing loaded. Incredible energy management. And unfortunately, we are going to lose that game. All in all, this team worked amazingly well on day 1 of the Master League Premier Cup. Initially, the first Pokemon that I wanted to try in the Master League Premier Cup meta was Tyranitar. It got Dragon Breath, it's incredibly fun to use, but after taking a look at the matchups, honestly, I got quite worried. Shadow Tyranitar does not beat Metagross in a single even shielding scenario. Even though you are resisting Shadow Claw, you just can't ever do enough damage to it, even in the 2 shield, to take the win. Metagross just wins that matchup. So, if I'm thinking to myself, the most used Pokemon in this meta are Metagross, Gyarados, and Florges. If it's losing to Gyarados, and it's losing to Metagross, and it's losing to Florges, unfortunately, that makes it a pretty tough bring. So that was a pretty bitter pill to swallow, I would say, because I really wanted to use Tyranitar in the Master League Premier Cup. I do think the regular Tyranitar would probably fare a little bit better because the regular Tyranitar can actually win the 0s and the 1s against Metagross. Because even though you take big super effective damage from Meteor Mash, you can actually survive. So if you are running Tyranitar, I'd probably lean more towards the regular, just because that way you at least have some shielding scenarios that you can win against Metagross, whereas unfortunately the Shadow just loses all evens. But enough yapping about Tyranitar. I know it's one of my favorite mons, but Hydreigon, what I think makes it probably the premier dark type, it's probably 1A and 1B with Kingambit, which is also incredibly strong, is its ability to break up that Gyarados plus Metagross core. It's very convincing against Gyarados, since it walls off Gyarados' energy. It destroys Metagross in all even shield scenarios. Florges is obviously pretty catastrophic, but beating 2 of the big 3 puts you in a pretty nice spot. Kingambit from the opposing team was definitely a bit of a tricky Pokemon to navigate, so it definitely required a lot of energy management and teamwork, but I really felt like Flash Cannon on Hydreigon paid off in several key scenarios, as Flash Cannon was able to inflict big damage on Rhyperior, and I did have a game that I don't think ended up making the final cut, where I was able to land a Flash Cannon on a Primarina to set up a perfect Shadow Claw farm down with Metagross in order to clutch a win. So all in all, day 1 was off to an amazing start. I was just going to try and have some fun in the Master League Premier Cup with Hydreigon, so the fact that this team put together an 80% win rate, I was very pleased with. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please do help support the channel. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide continues to help me do what I do. Thank you guys so very much, and until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.